Hello everyone and welcome back. I just wanted to share a few photos before and after of the Philco 41280 with you guys. As you can see in the photos that I'm sharing, it looks like the radio itself at some point in time was more of a mouse house, and the urine caused a lot of rust. Not only on the chassis itself, you can see the transformer bell housing as well as the tuning assembly. So the majority of my time was really spent just breaking the components down away from the chassis and doing some de-rusting. Again, just trying to be mindful of the budget that I had to work with to do the restoration. Again, I did not prime or paint the chassis, but after doing the rust removal, I did go back with a rust inhibitor. Which should provide some good protection, and hopefully the radio will be stored inside, so it should minimize the chance of rust reforming in the future. With that said, there's still some really tough spots where there's a lot of pitting and still just a little more rust removal to do on the front and sides of the chassis, but I'm probably about 99% there. Electrically, the radio's performing well. It has a pre-selector on it, so you have your own oscillators for local channels, and that really works well. I completed the RF alignment using a long wire antenna. Again, the procedure for doing this particular radio recommends using the loop antenna, so I know I'll have to probably do a little more readjustment once I get this thing back to the cabinet itself and get that internal loop antenna, but it plays and tracks pretty well. I'll show a modification I made there on the tuning condenser in just a bit. I think there's a gimmick capacitor, and I actually went back with a fixed capacitor, real low value picofarad, just to create more stability and get the dial to track more accurate. You may have noticed in the photos too, there's an additional component added here between the power transformer and the rectifier tube. Again, it's mounted vertical. Again, that's a CL90. I mentioned that in one of the other videos. It's an inrush current limiter, and it really provides not only for the limitation of the current on the startup, but also drops my voltage, line voltage to the radio about 4 or 5 volts because this radio at 120 volts AC, it draws about 0.4 amps of current. So I'm able to use that to also reduce the voltage again by about 4 or 5 volts. So about 120, 121 on the input side. Again, I'm around 116, 117. That will make it a little easier on the old power transformer that's in here also. Here are some of the photos as I was going through the radio, replacing the old capacitors as well as out of tolerance resistors. I think all in about 19 capacitors replaced, including a few of the micas. And I think there were 9 resistors that I replaced as well. You're looking again at that one Philco block that was installed here. And had never done this before, but it worked well. I actually put this Philco block in my ultrasonic cleaner in heated water and let it run through about 3 or 4 cycles, heated it up, and the tar inside or whatever was just as brittle as can be. It popped right out and was clean as can be. So you can see here I'm installing the new safety caps in the same Philco block to make it look somewhat original. For those out there just getting started in the hobby, you may want to get you a box of grommets. You'll need them. Just about every case that I run across, especially a radio with this vintage, all the grommets and washers are deteriorated, which should be expected. But you can see here when I was doing some of the rust removal and everything, there's some of the old grommets that just fell apart as I was removing the tuning condenser itself, as well as the mechanical pieces there that hold the dial assembly together. So again, just kind of working through some of the parts and pieces I had on hand and trying to recreate those pieces to get the correct spacing. And you can see there just a little bit of time and effort, and I got everything back together. And I think what I put in there, substituted, will work well for the foreseeable future. For those that watched the first video, that antenna coil that I'm showing here was looked a little rough, like someone had worked on it or around it. And I just took some time there to take it out of the circuit and give it a nice test and document the DC resistance. So it ended up being in good shape. Here's more of the tuning assembly and everything kind of put back together. I apologize for the picture-in-picture here. I was evidently I ran out of space on my camera, but as you rotate the band switch, you're able to toggle the light back and forth, and it tracks between your preset, your broadcast, and your two short wave bands on the radio. So that's a really neat addition. The dial string for that is not called out in any of the documentation, so there was a great reference already on the Antique Radio forum, and then just looking at it made sense. So anyway, you can see here I did put a fuse in the radio as well for safety, and it's underneath the chassis, so it can't just be replaced by someone at will. And again, just wrapping up here for a few more photos. So overall, I'm pleased. Again, not a complete restore, more just a repair, kind of a quasi restore, I would say. Again, I think I mentioned the Candome resistors up there too. You saw a brief shot of those. I did drill the rivets out and replace the 3 power resistors with new modern day resistors. The wattage for those are less than 5 watts, so that's what I went back with. So hey folks, thanks for watching this series. Again, a little more derusting on the chassis. I'm going to add a plug for MP3 player if needed, and we'll get this back to the owner. I'll try to post some future videos of the cabinet, which resides at my dad's house, in a future video. Thanks again for following along on this one.